Exaggeration comes naturally to us. It's much more appealing to say that something is the greatest of all time, rather than admitting it's just a thing you like. It has more impact that way. Magic players stick to their guns on this issue with startling resilience. No card can just be good. Every single one that puts in even the smallest amount of work has to be the second coming of card Jesus. This goes double for the popular ones. Well, I'm unconvinced. There are a lot of cards with play rates and hype that completely eclipse their ability. Today I want to talk about this phenomenon, and discuss the most overrated cards in Commander. Lightning Greaves has been a staple card in this format for over a decade now, but I think that some of this is a holdover from Commander's early days rather than based on its modern merit. Greaves has a whopping 25% play rate in all possible decks that can use it, which, being colorless, is every deck. EDHREC statistics aren't the end-all be-all, but people also swear by this thing. I've even seen templates people make for deck building, where this goes in automatically right next to Soul Ring and Command Tower. That's crazy to me. Let's talk mechanics. Greaves is 2 mana and equips for 0. The equipped creature is then graced with both Haste and Shroud. That rate seems pretty good. You're paying 1 mana and a half a card for each of these keywords. Haste is great when your commander relies on combat for triggers, and Shroud is helpful just to keep them alive. If you invest 9 mana into a big evil dinosaur, you'd probably like them not to be shot on sight. But is that really so important that this one particular card should be in 1/4 of all decks? I'm not so sure. A great many commanders and threats these days are cheap, real cheap. 2 and 3 mana can pack a real punch, depending on the strategy. Many decks can go entirely without protective effects and still function fine. A 3 mana commander just isn't very appetizing as a target for your average Doomblade. That thing is hungry for a much bigger mana disparity. It's also only getting its great rate when you're making good use of both keywords. A lot of decks aren't especially interested in the haste it provides, and so would be better served with other options. Also, although Greaves is mana efficient, it occupies an awkward point on the curve. Turn 2 is when a lot of decks want to ramp, or play an early commander, which puts a card you want to come down before your commander into a clunky position when sharing this slot. You really want a 5 mana or up commander that wants to attack, or a deck completely disinterested in ramping and is very aggressive. That definitely isn't impossible, but is that really 1/4 of all decks? The goal here isn't to downplay Lightning Greaves as a bad card. It's not. But instead, to ask if the performance fits the play rate, and I just don't think it does. If you're still not convinced, finally, it can get in its own way. Voltron is almost a great strategy for this card. Equipment synergies, hyper-aggressive playstyle, and with a commander you expect to recast and thus be expensive. If you equip the Greaves, you need to have another proxy creature ready to slide them onto before you can do any further modifying. This makes the Greaves really clunky and maybe one of the best archetypes for it. I think that these are real drawbacks that people don't consider when they haphazardly slap the Greaves into a deck. Luckily, this game has no shortage of great protection to take its place. Swiftfoot Boots is an obvious point of comparison, and if you're in a Voltron strategy, I'd highly advise going with this instead to avoid equip headaches. Mother of Runes can be played on turn 1, so it'll arrive before most ramp and fit nicely into the curve. Mithril Coat can get you to burn removal by playing it at flash speed, and it has Indestructible itself. And both Overprotect and Tyvar's Last Stand share some commonalities with Mithril Coat while giving you added power when you're on the offensive. All of these are great cards that I think you should consider before playing your 18th Lightning Greaves. I'm going to say it, I am not the biggest fan of Vampiric Tutor. That might sound insane. It's only 1 mana, can search for any card, and operates at instant speed. What's wrong with this? Well, the fact that it tutors to the top of your library instead of your hand. In my experience, this is a bigger drawback than it seems. In your head, you think, okay, so I'll just tutor it on the previous player's end step, and it'll be like I tutored it right into my hand. But there are some pretty serious differences in practice. 1. This thing is card disadvantage where tutors to hand are not. With a tutor to hand, you're replacing the card you cast like a cantrip. Vampiric doesn't do this. Instead, it eats your next draw to afford costing 1 mana. Even if your next draw is exactly what you want it to be, it's slowing you down from getting to your next land and the cards that follow it. Unless you're tutoring up specifically card advantage, there's opportunity to put yourself behind in tempo and begin missing lands. On that note, the putting it on top also makes this rather slow. Sure, if you cast it on the previous opponent's end step, there's little time in between to interfere with the tutor from your opponent's perspective. But what if you really needed the card to be in hand during your previous turn? Think of it like this. Player C is about to win. They have a ton of creatures, and a Jetmir pumping them to lethal. This player will win if nothing is done this turn. You come to your untap, and draw into a tutor. Tell me, when fishing for an answer, are you hoping to see a Vampiric Tutor? Or one that puts the card into your hand? It can be an instant all at once. Without a way to crack into your library, only a hand tutor is going to save you here. Your previous opponent's end step isn't a guarantee. Here, you're going to be dead before it happens. Vampiric Tutor is slow, even if you're tricking yourself into thinking it's fast due to its card type. In CEDH, this isn't much of an issue, because those people generate card advantage out of thin air. But to us casuals, this can be the difference between life and death. Also, it's a game changer, which means in bracket 3, it occupies a valuable slot that we could repurpose for something else. Here are some tutors I might recommend in place of Vampiric. Demonic Tutor is obviously a great substitute here. Its rate is uncontested at 2 mana to hand. I've begun to slot this in over Vampiric, and I think most people should too. It's another game changer though, so let's see about freeing up that slot. Diabolic Intent is just Demonic Tutor, but you have to sacrifice a creature. Chuck a token, a mana dork, or maybe even your commander, and get the best card in your deck directly to hand. The drawback is existent, sure, but especially in the late game, Diabolic Intent saves lives and secures wins. Beseech the Mirror is awesome. 4 mana seems steep, and the bargain clause isn't nothing, but getting to cast the spell you tutor for free is incredible. Lets you stick card draw, mana generation, and board wipes without needing to wait a rotation, and without additional mana. Finally, Insatiable Avarice is very high impact. Great to cast when you're in a middling position and would like to keep things moving at the cost of more mana. Just tutoring up a win is fine, but when you're in a format where you're behind 75% of the time, searching and drawing some cards is a good way to jump ahead in the mid-game. All of these tutors have an immediate impact and, in my opinion, could easily sub in for Vampiric. Doubling Season used to be incredibly powerful. Back in the day, with a slower format, a 5-mana enchantment with no immediate benefit wasn't too slow. And, with decks and strategies that were less focused, it wasn't uncommon for you to benefit both from its ability to double tokens and counters in the same game. Unfortunately for Doubling Season, the game has sped up substantially, and decks have become laser focused on their strategy. There is little room for do-nothing enchantments today, and this one's very expensive to be sitting there asking for assistance. People are also running more enchantment and artifact removal than ever before, which means the season is far less likely to make it to your next turn untouched. The format's also gained a bunch of new cards. There's a lot of redundancy in the effects of every major strategy to the point where you really don't need to be exploring outside of your core identity to win games. There's little overlap between token strategies and counters now, so it's rare you'll ever get the full value out of Doubling Season. It does have one really solid niche though, and that's Planeswalkers. When a Planeswalker enters the battlefield, it's technically in effect putting the loyalty counters onto them. Doubling Season sees these counters get added and doubles them. This means it can enable most Planeswalkers to use their ultimate on the very first turn they come down, which is incredibly powerful. I don't have any alternatives for this purpose, but token and counter doublers are a different story. For tokens, Parallel Lives and Anointed Procession are the streamlined equivalent of Doubling Season. They just double tokens, and thus, they're 1 mana cheaper. That might not seem like much, but when you have a handful of token makers waiting to be played, getting your doubler out a turn earlier means getting the plan into action much faster. I like Mondrak Glory Dominus much better though. He's the same mana cost, but comes with easily accessible Indestructible and a body on top of that. This makes him far better at facilitating aggro and an incredible blocker. However, my favorite token doubler by far is Elspeth Stormslayer. She doubles tokens, she makes tokens herself, and when you really need it, she can remove creatures. A great toolbox. Meanwhile, on the counter's end, we have some options too. If you're mostly just creating a lot of instances of single +1/+1 counters, then Hardened Scales is a double for 1 mana. Innkeeper's Talent is like Elspeth for counters. It brings them to the table and doubles them all on 1 card. Colonian Hydra comes with its own counters, so it triggers your synergies, and can retroactively double your already established counters. Also, it works repeatedly. Ornery Tumblewag gives out counters and doubles them too, but it's cheaper than Colonian. So, with all these options, it seems like Doubling Season's actual market is for decks that either go all in on Planeswalkers, or for some reason have both counter and token synergies. Is that really 10% of all green decks? I don't think so. Alright, this one's a call-out post for the rules team. I'm generally a pretty big fan of the cards they chose for the Game Changers list. It's apparent that there was a lot of data and community sentiment put into picking out what was a little less than healthy for the format. But I think I might take some umbrage with Seedborn Muse's inclusion. Untapping all your permanents on your opponent's turns is strong, don't get me wrong. But remember, there are almost 30,000 cards in this game. We have a lot of strong effects. The question is this card actually as powerful as people say it is? If you don't know, the best case scenario is you have a Seedborn Muse. Then, you have something that gives your spells flash. Now, it's sort of like you're taking a turn on everyone else's turns. You get all your lands untapped, and can use them to cast your spells at flash speed. There are some caveats though. First, this is 5 mana. That's a lot for anything, but especially to be a component in an engine. Seedborn is also a creature, which makes it very easy to kill, bounce, and otherwise remove from the board. So you probably have to be actively protecting it, or it'll be trivial to disrupt your turn printer. Now that you've successfully defended the Muse, you have to find a flash enabler. There's basically 3 of these that are playable: Vidalcan Orrery, Leyline of Anticipation, and High Fae Trickster. For the record, the latter is by far the best, since you can play it on the turn after yours. These are each 4 mana, which means to put this all together, it costs the same as Expropriate, but you also need 2 cards to combo together. There are 2 card combinations that win the game outright, and even then, it's not like we're really taking 3 extra turns of rotation. You lack combats, upkeep triggers, end step triggers, and importantly, your draw step. Fans of burgeoning know this all too well. You will immediately run out of gas if you do not have a very, very profitable card draw engine in play. This means the combo is actually 3 cards, and do you see where I'm going with this? Okay, now that we've been through all of that, please look me in the eyes and tell me why this has a higher play rate than the One Ring. I understand that the ceiling for this card is very high, but I also feel like it's just paying for the sins of profit of Kruphix a decade later. Magic has a lot of cards in its pool. The prospect of comparative assessment for all of these is tough for veterans, much less new players still learning the rules. Sometimes, it's easier to just go with the mob verdict on a card. Everyone says it's good, must be true. We've all been there. But, as you continue down the road of learning the game, I think it's important that you look back and reflect on the evaluations you made earlier. Audit them, scrutinize, challenge your own conceptions about what is and isn't powerful, and try not to contribute to the hyperbole surrounding the most overrated cards in Commander. If you have a card that you think people constantly overrate, then please, share it down in the comments below. They're my favorite part of every video, and I want to hear what you think I missed. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you liked it or shared it with a friend. Maybe I'll convince them that Lightning Greaves isn't as good as they say it is. If you enjoyed the format of this video, subscribe to the channel to be notified when I upload. I have a Discord where I get together with you guys for games of Magic, and a Blue Sky where I complain about my favorite game. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.